These four cars from the 90s flopped, but they were actually amazing. So what was the reason for their demise? We're going to kick things off with the Nissan 300 ZX Turbo. This was actually America's forgotten supercar killer. At the time, Corvette was king and Mustangs ruled the streets. But then Nissan drops a bombshell that nobody saw coming. Because the 300 ZX Turbo didn't just compete with the Corvette, it embarrassed it. Chevy was still figuring out how to make 250 horsepower. Meanwhile, Nissan strapped twin turbos to their 3-liter V6 and cranked out 300 horses. That's 50 more than the Corvette, gentlemen. But here's where it gets interesting. It could do 0 to 60 in an impressive 5.6 seconds. That's 7/10 more than the Corvette. And it got it done while being easier to drive every day than the temperamental Corvette. So while American manufacturers were still stuck in the bigger engine, more power mindset, Nissan was playing chess. Why? Well, they gave their car four-wheel steering, technology that wouldn't become mainstream for decades. Not only that, but twin turbos with intercoolers, when most Americans thought turbocharging was just for imports. Their ZR-rated tires were also good for over 149 miles an hour. This wasn't just any fast car. It was a glimpse into the future of automotive engineering. So then, why did this car flop? Let's start with the price. At $34,000, it cost the same as a loaded Corvette, but Americans couldn't stomach paying supercar money for a Japanese car. Never mind that you were getting superior technology and reliability. You probably know this, but buying foreign was still seen as unpatriotic by many American car guys. Not only that, but the twin turbos scared off buyers who were used to simple V8s. But you want to know the impact it made? It forced the Corvette team back to the drawing board and started a war which gave us the incredible performance cars we have today. The 300 ZX Turbo didn't fail because it was a bad car. It failed because America wasn't ready to admit that the students had become the masters. For performance, we're going to give it a 9 for value, probably a 6, and for sales, it's got to be a 3. Up next, we have the Chevy Luminina Z34. Folks, this car was the ultimate wolf in sheep's clothing. Now, you probably know this. The regular Lumina was about as exciting as watching paint dry. But somebody in GM's engineering department had a wild idea. What if we took this practical family coupe and turned it into a legitimate performance machine? But they didn't just bolt on some plastic cladding and call it a day. They built a brand new engine, a high-tech 3.4-liter V6 with dual overhead cams. It could do 200 horsepower, which was 60 more than the standard engine, and it was backed up with a 5-speed manual built specifically for this car. And the numbers? Well, they tell the story. 0 to 60 in 8.1 seconds, which was faster than most sports cars of the era. But it wasn't just quick in a straight line. The Z34 had sport-tuned suspension and 4-wheel disc brakes. It could actually handle the curves, not just the drag strip. But here's what made the Z34 brilliant. You had real performance without the insurance penalties of a Camaro or Corvette. You had adult practicality thanks to its 4-wheel seats and a huge trunk. Not only that, but it was at reasonable price at under $17,000. It cost thousands less than comparable performance from Ford or import brands. And to top it off, this was built to GM's family car durability standards. So why did it flop? Well, to start with, the upgrade was just too subtle. Most people couldn't tell it apart from a regular Lumina. Not only that, but badge bias was real back then. Performance car buyers wanted Camaros and Corvettes, cars that looked fast. The Z34 looked like what their dad drove to work. Overall, GM never properly promoted what they'd built. Most people had no idea this car existed. For performance, we're going to give it a 7.5, and for value, we feel like it deserves an 8.5. And for sales, well, a 2 out of 10 is fair in our eyes. Next is the Dodge Spirit RT. And folks, I'm being honest, this was a family sedan that embarrassed Mustangs. Someone at Chrysler looked at the humble Spirit and asked a brilliant question. What if we stuffed a turbo monster under this mild-mannered hood? The result was automotive insanity disguised as sensibility. They took Chrysler's 2.2-liter four-cylinder and went absolutely wild. Turbocharger with intercooler, dual overhead cams, 16 valves, 224 horsepower. This wasn't just an engine upgrade. This was a declaration of war against every sports car on the road. Guys, the numbers were absolutely shocking for 1991, 0 to 60 in 6.2 seconds, faster than most Corvettes and in genuine supercar territory, and it got it done while looking like your accountant's car. But that wasn't all. You could fit 4 adults in comfort, haul a week's worth of groceries, and have a comfortable ride. But here's what was so shocking. At $17,000, it costs thousands less than comparable performance cars. You got Mustang GT performance for tourist money. And you know what's funny? Your insurance company saw Dodge Spirit and charged economy car rates, not sports car premiums. So why did it fail? Well, the Spirit RT was a victim of American car culture. It had the wrong body style at a time where performance meant 2 doors and a V8. Not only that, but Dodge meant trucks and minivans to most people. Performance car buyers wanted Mustangs, Camaros, and Corvettes. But to me, the Spirit RT wasn't a failure. It was prophetic. This car predicted the entire modern performance sedan movement by 15 years. The BMW M3, same concept, German execution. So to me, performance has to get a 9.5 out of 10. Value is also high at a 9. But sales, unfortunately, gets a 3. Next, we have the Saturn SC, which was basically America's fight back against Japan. America at the time were known for their failure to build small cars that didn't fall apart after 50,000 miles. But then the Saturn SC came along. It was living proof that American engineers could build a small car that was genuinely better than the imports. Now, Saturn was a completely new company within GM, built from the ground up. And for a brief shining moment, they actually pulled it off. What made the SC special wasn't flashy horsepower numbers. It was doing everything right. Space frame construction with plastic body panels that would never rust. It had independent rear suspension, when most small cars still used cheap beam axles. Not just that, but the build quality actually rivaled Honda and Toyota. Fuel economy didn't sacrifice performance either. This wasn't just competitive with imports. In many ways, it was superior. And you know what's crazy? The SC actually launched at exactly the right moment. Gas prices were climbing, so efficiency mattered again. But at the time, import quality was the gold standard, as young buyers didn't care about V8s. Small cars were now respectable, and Saturn had built the perfect car. But here's the tragic part. Corporate sabotage was the reason for its demise. GM's other divisions saw Saturn as a threat to their own small car sales. So instead of expanding Saturn's success, they starved it of resources, no evolution whatsoever. Saturn started as a revolutionary company, but slowly got absorbed back into the GM bureaucracy that had created the problem in the first place. For performance, we think a 7 is fair. Value, though, gets a 9. It actually undercut most imports. Sales were initially good, so we'll give that a 4. Let me know in the comments if you would like a part 2.